So let's start with our search filters screen. And first thing I'm going to do is select this navbar, Control D, Control V right here. Sorry, I should use Control C and then Control D. And what I'm going to do next is select these two, Control C, Control D right here. And I'm going to use sofa once again, so Control D. And I'm going to move it right here. Next up, I'm going to select the X icon or the close icon from here, Control C, jump into this screen, Control V, and I'm going to position it like so. So in the middle of this, use the navbar, do the close inside, and for example, select close and menu, and make sure you line them up perfectly. Drop close out, delete navbar because we don't need it anymore. And what we're going to do next is right click right here, use guides, and maybe we can simply right click right here. No, so we have to select the name, right click, guides, copy guides, click right here, guides, paste guides, so that we can use the same guides, and make sure you move the close right here. Sofa is aligned correctly, but we are going to double click right here and type in filters, because these are going to be our filters and users can then filter out what they want the items to show. So first in line is going to be color, and I'm going to move this a bit down. We don't need it at the moment. So what we want is move it like so, and then hold shift 1, 2, 3, 4, so that you can move it 40 pixels down like so. And we're going to use these two arrows, so you can select both of them at the same time, Control C, Control V, so that you don't jump in all of the time. Use this arrow, line it up in the middle, so you can select both of them, line it up like this. And what we want is move it in the middle of the X, because the X is a bigger icon. So place it like so, and then move this icon just below like so until it lines up perfectly. Control D on the color, hold shift and 1, 2. We're going to filter out by price like so. And now you can move this one and select both of them and line up the arrow. And next up, I'm going to use this. So let's say, for example, 349, Control D once again. And on this one, let's say 1239, for example. So you can space them out evenly, and you can maybe even do it like so. And we are going to move them from here 40 pixels down, like so, just to have a bit more space. So when they are closed, they are 20 pixels apart, and when they are open, they are 40 pixels apart, just so that we can have a bit more breathing room. Next up, we're going to create a circle. So create a nice big circle, maybe 16 with 16, for example. We're going to remove the border, and for the color, let's use this one. Yeah. And we're going to line it up with this text, or you can select both of them and do like so. We're going to jump into our layers panel once again, type in circle like so, Control D, and make sure you're in the middle with this one, so like this. And we're going to put sort of a timeline behind it. So how we're going to do that is use a rectangle and go from edge to edge like so. Remove the border. For the corner radius, we're going to use 5. And for the color, let's use this one, for example. And I think it looks good. We just need to move it below. So let's call it a timeline, for example. Move it below. Control G on all of them. And you can even filter out by prices, so like this, and move this price up, double click right here, and we're going to type in, for example, slider, or the range, however you want to call it. And inside we have our two circles and our timeline, or we can maybe, for example, type in range BG, let's say like that. And we're going to group all of them, so select the price, select this arrow, and select all of these, Control G, and we're going to group them by price. Next up, we're going to move it all the way down and order some of these layers up a bit. So status bar right here, we're going to choose filters and close, move them up like this. So up arrow and color, we're going to position them like so, Control G. So this is our color, and we're going to use, for example, Control D on this one and move it down just a touch. So hold Shift until they line up with the bottom of our circles like this. So Shift 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're going to use materials like this, and we need a down arrow right here. So you can click inside, Control C, and jump inside of the materials, hit Control V, and then we're going to move this arrow like this until it lines up with our up arrow. So like this exactly, and we're going to place it like so, delete up arrow like so. And what we want to create inside is something like a quick selection, so they can select, for example, leather, cloth, some other materials, so for example sky or whichever material there is on offer. And we're going to need this text, so Control D, move it outside of the folder, and once again to like this, materials. You see why it's important to name all of your layers and groups. So drop it inside and position it like this. And it really doesn't matter because we want to create a frame. So double click right here, type in letter and do Control D and move it like so. And maybe we want to create a cloth like this. So what we want is to create a rectangle around it so people can select it, and when they do, it will create a basic rectangle around it. So maybe we want to create a rectangle like this, and maybe type in, for example, 80 by 30, let's say. We're going to remove the fill color, and for the border we're going to use this same color. And now we're going to position leather inside like this and like this, so it's in the middle on all of the sides. And now we're going to use these two, so let's call it a frame and a leather, and the cloth will be just below. So these two, select them, move them until they meet with our text like so, 40 pixels down, and use the cloth and position it in the middle. And perhaps even move it, let's say like so, 1, 2, 3, 40 pixels to the right. And next up we need two more sections, so let's use the color, so Control D, and we don't have to create another instance of it, so we can use exactly the same instance. So use the color, but for some reason it selected the text. Let me quickly fix it. So inside of the color we have up arrow, so Control D. We're going to move it down until they meet right here, 1, 2, 3, 4. And this is going to be our washable. So is the product washable or not? Let me remove the capital at the front like so. And we need one more instance, so Control D. And we're going to move this one, so until they meet like so, 1, 2, if you remember, because it's closed, not open. And this is going to be a mechanism. So for example, because we chose sofa right here, is it going to be a mechanism? So can you retract it or collapse it or something like that? Or is it just fixed sofa and you get what you paid for? That's it. You cannot move it, you cannot extend it or place it any other way around. So that's basically what the mechanism is. Let me quickly check if these ones are aligned. Yes, they are. And one final thing is for us to order these and create a button. So let's start from the top. We have filters, we have clothes, color is the first, price is the second, materials is the third, and this should be washable. Like so. And finally, this is a mechanism. Like so. And one final thing, we want to create a button right here. So we're going to use all of the width like so. We're going to choose this color because it's nice and bold. We're going to type in BTN, which is short for button, and we're going to position it, for example, 40 pixels, but let's first use the dimensions. Let's use 335 with 50, and I'm going to use 5 for the corner radius, and then I'm going to move it 40 pixels up from this home indicator. And finally, I'm going to need just one text. So let's use filters text, like so, Control D, move it down to the bottom, and maybe, for example, do like this, move it inside. This filters will stay at the top, this will stay at the bottom, like so, and this is going to be white. Double click inside, and we're going to write apply selection. Control A, make sure it's in the center, and make sure you position it like so and like so, so it's perfectly in the center. And you can also group it, so Control D, button. And that's it for our screen. As you can see, it's really quite simple because all of these selections repeat each other. The most annoying thing about not just Adobe XD but any software is it puts all of the layers at the top. I really don't know if you can fix some of that and if you can order them from below, but in any case, even if you can, in majority of the cases you have to order them yourself, so that is the most time consuming bit. If you want to stay clean and tidy, if you don't, it's really up to you. So for example, if you are doing some practice files or you are sending the files to your client and you want to spend more time at the end before the final delivery to the client, then it's fine. You don't have to name all your layers and position them like I did throughout this project, but it's really preferable if you do so because developers will love you and it will cut your work short later on when it comes the time to delivering the final files to your client and to their developers. In the next video, we're going to design a room combination screen, so I'll see you there.